May I just congratulate you on your xylophone playing?
Thank you very much. It's a skill that's seldom heard from me. Really.
And I wasn't expecting, but there we are. Welcome to Two Old Chuffs and a Tale of Two Hospices. So this is our first podcast from Cornish charity Cornwall Hospice Care, and we hope to be able to share all sorts of stories from around our charity. But this is podcast one, so bear with us as we learn as we go along.
Absolutely.
Which is always the best way to learn. So who are we? Well, who are you?
Well, I am Gina Starnes, and I'm the Director of Clinical Services here, which can mean anything from sorting Christmas decorations to managing complex situations on the unit.
And I'm Tamsin Thomas, and I look after PR and communications here. So I'm certainly not front line, but I get to talk about our charity. I get to talk.
You do? You're good at that.
Don't let me overtake, all right?
Okay.
You butt in if you need to. But why are we here? I was thinking about this when I was driving in today. Why are we sitting doing a podcast?
I think we're here because it's really important that we get the word out about Cornwall Hospice Care. And actually it's a really important year for us, Tamsin. It's our 40th year of providing adult care in Cornwall. And I think for our end-of-life patients, we want that to increase over the next 40, and it's important that we look back and look forward, and this seems a really great opportunity to do that.
Have you ever done this before?
Never, ever. Have you?
A little bit. And I thought about it last night. I was thinking, should I have listened to thousands of podcasts and should I have drawn on other people's inspiration? Then I thought, no, do you know, we're best just going it our way, aren't we?
I think so. I think winging it is quite important.
So I'm going to... Thank you. Yes, ba-boom.
Yes,
there we go.
Okay,
so I'm going to ask you a bit about you now. Okay. Bear with me. Tell me to stop if I get too intrusive. But what gives you the right to be here? What's your background?
Well, my background feels like a long while ago now. I always wanted to do nursing. My grandma died at home, and I thought that was a really good death for her. And that inspired me then to go and to do some nursing training. And the reason that I didn't train in my local hospital at the time was because actually it was those heady days when they were training nurses and then they had too many nurses to take on at the end of the day. So I wasn't guaranteed a post. And so I went off and joined the army for 10 years. So I trained in the army, and that's where my interest in oncology was. And I did some work at the Marsden. And then I followed through and worked at a hospice, because actually for me it was always end-of-life care which was important.
Do you need, how does end-of-life care play out with the army then?
Well, within the army we had a big oncology unit, and so we looked after lots of army guys and ladies, but we also looked after dependents. We also looked after, we had some great fun with the Chelsea pensioners. So actually for us it was about providing care within that community as well. So most of that was done in Woolwich. My last 5 years was in Woolwich. And then from there, actually, you know, often with oncology, end-of-life care is part of that journey for some people. And it was really important for me to get it right even at that time. So,
do you know, it's funny what you don't think about, isn't it? And what you forget is that terminal illness, or even an illness that might become terminal, can affect you at any time.
Yes, it can.
I always think of the army as being fit, healthy young people all racing about.
Yeah, and the majority are. I wasn't necessarily, you know, all that fit and racing about, but fit enough. But actually, you know, there are cancers which affect people at different stages, and actually you don't know. So for me it was one of the things that I loved about the army, and also kind of followed through into end-of-life care, is the fact that actually there's no set rules. You can actually you don't know what's going to come through the door at any time. So that was really important for me.
So really you evolved from that moment that your grandma died at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was that expected? Do you mind me asking?
No, of course I don't mind. No, it was expected. She had cancer of the bowel, and had gone through lots of. She hadn't had chemotherapy, but she had lots of surgery, and our decision then at the time was to do what we could do for her at home. So I was 15 when she died at home, so quite important for me to be able to kind of have have that relationship with her then. And I always remember the one thing that she said on her very last day was that she wanted a lavender hedge. She was thinking of lavender hedges. So that stayed with me all this time. So I always love a lavender hedge.
Yeah, absolutely. My Labrador likes a lavender hedge because he eats the honeybees or chases the honeybees around it. But see, isn't it funny what stays in your mind?
Always.
I've not experienced anyone dying at home. Ironically, my mum was here at Mount Edgecombe Hospice, where we're recording this podcast, though she died at the local, what was then the Cottage Hospital, sadly now closed. But it's an experience. I'm sure we're going to look at this, because you and I talk about death.
We do.
But in a really positive way.
Yeah, it is. And for me, actually, it's going to happen, and it'll happen at some point to all of us. It's one of those one certainties, really. So for me, it's really important to try and get it as right as we can.
And of course, working where we work, it's death is a part of life, I heard someone say the other day, and I do get that. But of course, it's not just about death, is it? No. It's about all that comes before it. That's why I find, personally, working for this charity and being able to come into the hospice a privilege.
It is. Absolutely. I think it's and looking after people, and our teams that do that and have involvement with patients and their families, I think, they would all say exactly the same thing. People feel very humbled when they look after somebody that's at end of life, and to be able to get it right is hugely important and gives, huge satisfaction, huge job satisfaction. But it's more than that.
Indeed, and over the coming months, because we're determined to make this work, we will be talking about all these subjects, and I'm hoping that people will join in, will ask us questions and give us subjects they want to hear about. So, hello, you're listening to Two Old Chuffs, a tale of two hospices, and this is the new podcast from Cornwall Hospice Care. Gina, what do you want to get out of a podcast?
Well, now I've kind of looked up and found out what one is.
What one is.
And had a little look yesterday, like you, I think, at how people did it before. For me, it's about getting the word out there about the hospice, but also it's about that integration in, because actually people have a very fixed view sometimes about what a hospice is, what they do, what it's like, and I would really like to encourage the people of Cornwall to ask those questions and to see if we can bust a few myths around perhaps what the hospice is for people.
Do you know, I'm right on that with you, because I can remember when I first joined Cornwall Hospice Care, which was nearly 6 years ago, I was talking to a former BBC colleague of mine, and she did that thing, I don't know if it happens to you, where I said, I'm going to work for Cornwall Hospice Care, and her voice dropped.
Yes.
And she said, oh, how's that going to be? And I thought, why are you whispering? Yeah. I said, well, I'm really looking forward to it. And we had a conversation, and I said, what describe for me what you think a hospice is. And she described a Victorian workhouse.
Yes, I've had
to
that
a
before.
T.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is somebody who works for the BBC, is a very bright person. And I stared at her, and she's been in since here. And boy, talk about challenging a perception.
Yeah.
Completely blew her out of the water, because the first thing she said was, oh, it's light.
Yeah, as if you keep everybody in a dark room. I think that's what we hear a lot of the time from both professional colleagues and from patients who come in. But actually from that first, hello from the volunteer receptionist to, walking through across our lovely concourse, it is lovely and bright. And actually, there's a lot of laughter in the hospice. Actually, we want to make it as normal as possible for people.
And that's what I love, that normal life goes on, which can sound a bit harsh, but having been here as a relative, actually the normality of what goes on, I don't know, it brought me a comfort. It's hard to describe, but the fact someone was laughing down the corridor, I wrote a blog not long ago about when my dad was dying, though it wasn't in a hospice, that we were very close to the moment he was going to die. I was I and my Sharon were sat opposite him, and we'd run out of things to say, and we were just kind of staring at each other, and it was all a bit awkward, and Dad was lying between us. And then way down the corridor, someone started singing "I've Got a Lovely Bunch of Coconuts." Yeah, and we both burst out laughing, which might seem a bit odd, but it was absolutely fine. It just broke that duck. And I love that you come in here. Sometimes there's dogs. Yes. The pack dogs are here, or a relative's dogs, and there's children running around, and there's people chatting in corners and perhaps sharing a joke or on the phone.
Yeah. I think it's really important that people hear that, Tamsin, and that they're involved in it. So actually, we've had people in and dressed up for Christmas recently, and actually, you can't hide people away from it. And people are often coming in with their families, so they're going away to celebrate or to think or to reflect afterwards, and it's really important that we can share what's happening in the world here. One of the bubble.
Have I ever told you the story of Christmas here? Because you're a singer, aren't you?
Yes, I do a bit. Yes,
and I'm not. And I was doing a volunteer shift, and one of the nurses came out and said, "We've got a bit of a problem. Every Christmas, this little group of people come and sing in the corridors some carols, but some of them are poorly, so they're short in numbers, and we need to rally people to sing." I said, "Well, no, I can't do this." And she said, "No, you can." So a group of us stood in the corridor, and we rattled our way through all these carols. And then I went to do the hot drink round, and I went into this one patient, and she was in tears, and I said, "Oh, can I get you someone? And is everything all right?" And she said, "No." She said, "Who was singing in the corridor?" And I said, "Why?" And she said, "I have never laughed so much."
How fantastic.
And she literally had tears of laughter pouring down her cheek, and I've never forgotten that. So my public singing stopped at that point, sadly.
You just mouth?
Yes, I pretend now, and do a lot of clapping or, swaying, which is fine. For me, the other thing is I want to enjoy and share conversations. And I think I said to you, when Dad died, I was sat in one of our offices, and there happened to be a couple of colleagues, a volunteer, and one of them said, "How is it? How are you?" And we started talking about death. And it was one of the best conversations, impromptu.
Yeah.
We laughed. I think we had a little cry. And we talked, well, we went off all over the place. And I thought, what a privilege that was. But why can't we do that for everyone? Yeah. Even if you only want to listen to the conversation and not join in, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And we don't talk enough about it, really. I think, we kind of want to put it into that too difficult box sometimes, and life gets in the way. But actually, for me, it's a huge comfort to have thought about, perhaps how things might be for you, for those people that are left. And that's the way that I look at it. I have had bereavements where people have thought about that and they haven't, and actually it's so much easier to know that you're doing the right thing for that person who's died, because they've told you, they've either written it down or they've been clear about what they want. And for me, that was one of the most comforting things, was knowing that you'd done the right thing, because it was somebody that you loved and it was their wishes, and that felt very different to perhaps thinking, well, I'm not quite sure whether they'd want this or they'd want that or they'd want this song, or it's those things for funerals and for afterwards that you're left with.
But even those conversations about the last weeks or months must be important too.
Yeah,
and
they are.
Do you find here we trigger those conversations sometimes?
I think we do. We try to get people to think about those conversations in a very gentle way, and we go at the pace that patients and families want to go, and that's not always at the same pace. So actually you might be having one set of conversations with the patient and having another set with one family member, and then supporting them to have conversations with others. So our team absolutely would want to help that. So we involve all the nursing staff in that, and our counsellors as well, and our medical colleagues, but also the people that are important are people like the catering team, who are in every day to the wards, and also the housekeepers. They're the people sometimes that are there when actually nobody else is, and they're just doing their job, and people will talk to them because actually they're not in a uniform the same as a clinical team, and so they also need to be aware of those kind of conversations too.
And of course, our shop staff,
absolutely,
who often have people come in to donate items because someone's died, and suddenly they're exposed to conversations or trying to help people who are in a difficult place.
I think it's really important that we don't forget that huge army, to go back to where we started, of staff supporting the hospice, because absolutely you're right. And those can be really difficult conversations for people. Often they're on their own, they're busy doing 120 other things, but actually it's about taking the time to think about perhaps where their bag of goods have come from. And, it's that extra question, it's asking if people are okay, being able to signpost them to some support if they need it. So it's really important for us that actually all of our volunteers and staff know what we offer and what we do, and can allay some of those fears and questions.
Did you know, do you like a fact now and then?
I do, yes.
Did you know that we have, since last April, so 2019, recycled or taken donated goods and sold them on?
Fantastic.
1 million items.
That is fantastic, isn't it, really?
That's extraordinary, isn't it? I can't imagine in
how
the picture
huge,
how that would look.
Yeah, no, that's incredible.
Well, there's a nice positive fact to end on.
Good.
Shall we do this again?
Let's do it again.
Brilliant. I look forward to that. So if you want to join in and perhaps tell us how we're doing, maybe not, or you've got a question to ask or a subject you'd like to hear more about, drop us an email, communications@cornwallhospice.co.uk. And then we're going to be back in a couple of weeks because, as Gina said, it's our 40th anniversary this year. But I've actually been talking to, and you're going to love this lady, Barbara. Barbara has been volunteering for us for 45 years. Because, of course, what people forget is that the hospice opened 40 years ago, but there was 5 years of feverish fundraising. So we'll have a listen to her next time. Thank you for your company. Do join us again. We're Two Old Chuffs, a tale of two hospices.